everybody, we're going to start the second part of this. It'll be 1 more hour-ish, and we'll get going. So the topics for the second hour are going to be the list of elections and races for 2024, the law enforcement election guide, which is in your packet, a little bit about elections don't end at 8 p.m. I think we all know that, and then some scenarios which are fun, and then some additional training on the WisVote website. So the list of elections for 24 are the February primary, if needed, is going to be on the 20th. These are the races that could push us into a primary. And the village, cities, probably not. School board depends on if you have a contentious race going on, you might have a primary. And then County Board of Supervisors. Our County Board of Supervisors is running under a new redistricting plan. So we have 27 supervisors, and this April there will be four districts that have 2 of the previous county supervisors running against each other. We'll have 4 districts where there is nobody running, no incumbents running. And then we have 1 district where Grant Stosic, I believe District 15, is not going to be running this fall, or this spring. So there will be 5 district positions with nobody running, and 4 that will have 2 candidates for each. So in that one, either one or both, if somebody else decides to run in those 4 districts that have 2, that'll push it into a primary, and that'll be February. So, but it only affects those 4, or the district where that primary is going to happen at. So then we go into the April 2nd election, which will be everything that was just there, plus the presidential primary. And then we go from there. Referendums will also be on here. If your township's going to do a referendum, it'll be on that April ballot. And then we move off to the August 13th, which is the partisan primary election. We have, these are the ones, Baldwin, Gallagher, State Senate 21214, and then assemblies. County level will be a district attorney, county clerk, treasurer, and register of deeds. And then you go, that's a primary, and then you go into the November election as a presidential election, along with all the rest of those. In your packet is a 2023 Shawano County Law Enforcement Election Guide. In this guide, it gives you some scenarios regarding electioneering, observers, and just general, what do I do if I have an issue within my polling place? Our number 1 answer is going to be call the Sheriff's Department. If you have somebody that won't leave your polling place and your chief inspector has asked them to, and they won't go for whatever reason, call the Sheriff's Department, let them know you've called the Sheriff's Department and that they were on their way. Put it on your inspector statement. So this is some information from that, and it's pretty good. Electioneering, we'll get into a couple scenarios with that, and it also talks about, I believe, posting election materials 100 feet from the polling place, whether it's private or public, and that type of thing. It's a good little thing to have on handy. You can read it while on election day, if you have time.
After the people make it.
Elections don't end at 8 p.m. What to do after the polls close? We went through some of this already. Beginning of the end, all polls in Wisconsin close at 8 unless they have a duty order that they need to stay open later. I would recommend probably August and November that you have an end of a line person at 8 o'clock. That person stands behind the 8 o'clock person, and anybody else that comes is not going to be able to vote. Again, if you have issues with that, call the Sheriff's Department. You need to make an announcement that your polls have closed, and then you can continue your process. And if you have to, continue your process of absentee ballots, processing absentee ballots. Do not lock your doors. This is an open meeting. Anybody can come in and observe. And this is just basically no need to start waiting and start planning now. More so, I know most of you probably have done elections before and for a long time, and you know you got that good system going because you have your night crew and you know what you're doing. It may be more so for a new clerk who doesn't know what the process is, and then she or he may want to make up a list just so that, you know, everything runs smoothly at the end of the night. Optional, you don't have to do this. And then this is just some of the tasks that could be on that sheet that somebody could be assigned to. So election day paperwork, we go back to the inspector's statement, and most of this can be filled out by the clerk or the chief inspector prior to the end of the day. But at the end of the night, this voter statistics section is the one where we see the most either errors or incomplete. This has to be filled out. This is the major part of our canvas when we put it into WisVote. We take all of this information in here and it goes verbatim into the state system. So it has to be filled in, or we're going back to your results tapes and your tally sheets, and we're trying to figure out what the answers are to these questions. You want to have all of your election inspectors sign. This is a good way for the clerks to know who worked, what hours they worked, and then they can be compensated for that. And the main point is so that the clerk knows who worked that election. I know they probably set up the schedule and everything, but this is a signed document for the election inspector stating that, yes, I worked that election and these are the hours I was there. And then down here is the chief inspector signature area. And we talk a lot about odd number of signatures, odd. Here, everybody that's worked that election, whether you're a greeter or a registrant or somebody doing registration, should sign this so that we know who's all worked that election. If you need a second sheet, use a second sheet. Oh, why are you not working? No. Oh, I have to do that. It goes up instead of sideways. Just image of zero tape and a results tape. Side by odd number of election officials. You do it in the morning, there's a zero, and at night crew does the results tape. You don't need to have the morning crew do the results because they're not there. Minimum of 3 signatures. And then it says, do not rip the zero tape off on the ice. Keep this one all together because you have your zero, you have some information in the end, and then you have the results tape, and that's all that's on there. If you're working with the ICX, it says not to rip these apart, but here's the problem you're going to run into if you have that zero tape on an ICX, which is a touch screen, and so your ballots are round up, you know, in that printer, and you sign that zero tape in the morning, or the morning crew signs it in the morning. You go for, how many, we're open 13 hours?
14 hours.
12? 8 to 8, 7 to 8, I don't know. You got all those ballots and they're all round up on that tape. At the end of the night, you're unrolling that tape to get that zero tape off. So I recommend take it off in the morning right away, keep it with the rest of your documentation, and then at night you can grab your zero tape, because if you don't take them off, they're going to go in the ballot bag. And we need them outside of that ballot bag.
Does one automatically stays on? I usually I'll print like 3, say. So I'll
Well, if you print more than one, yes,
But one
that's probably the best
always
idea. I do
one
have,
always stays on the roll. Right?
do you have your inspector sign 2 copies then?
They sign like 3.
Okay, so you have them sign everything that you print. Good idea. So instead of just printing one, print multiple. That way you can take one off and leave one on. That's perfect.
Swipe to the side.
You have little arrows on the side.
I know, but it doesn't gives me that.
Oh, no.
No. So, we're going the wrong way. No? We haven't gotten the right way.
Oh, what's-
After the zero tape was county clerk election
The arrow, see the little arrow by your right?
No, this is just gonna put up a thing like
It
that.
just does that,
So which one should I be on?
Is that the machine from down here?
Yes.
County clerk election day paperwork.
Don't normally use a touch screen on.
Well, my other thing won't work and now the keyboard stopped working.
yeah. Try that again.
Try it again.
Slam it against the table.
Oh, it moves a little.
Ooh, one and two.
There we go.
So where are we on?
County clerk election day paperwork.
Well, where's this one? Right here?
No. No, two back. One more.
This one?
One more. One more. One more.
But
One more. Right
Keep
there.
going.
Good.
are we going the right
A
way?
lot of paperwork. Going. Wow. Going.
Oh, we were on that results tape, weren't we?
There we go.
This I need to talk about too. So this is the county clerk election day paperwork. This is the sheet that we have in our office that when you guys call in, we're filling this in. And it runs by the races that are, how they're listed on the ballot. So Erica and Charlene are answering the phones. They're taking this information from all 37 municipalities, usually within 2-hour span. And then they give me this sheet, I enter it into a spreadsheet and put it out on our website. And that is where we push our candidates to go to, the news media, we ask them to go out there because we try to upload it every 5 or 6 municipalities or whenever we can get a chance. Excuse me. Then after that, after the next day usually, we go into the state Canvas software. Then we also put all those numbers that we just compiled the night before into the Canvas software, and that is the unofficial tally for that the state looks at, and that's where sometimes they take those numbers off of there. Ooh, it's working again. So this is just election day paperwork. This is the hand count tally sheet. We talked about this. Do not use a pencil. Pencil is very hard for us to read when we're trying to go through these, and you have to use hash marks when you're tallying. Even though it says 5, you still need to use the 5 hash marks. It's what the state would like to see. So more election day paperwork, tally sheets. We are thinking in our office about doing a different type of tally sheet for write-in votes. It may look something like this, but we haven't come up with it. This would be like office specific, if there's like 3 of them. We do put blanks for write-ins on the other tally sheets, but sometimes there's a lot of write-ins and there's not enough room, and our tally sheets are out already, so this is something that we're thinking about going with. Observer log. All clerks should have this in their office and have it out for you guys for observers. When your observer comes in, you should have a specific area for them to sit in and observe. They have to fill in this area, and I know there was some controversy on whether or not they had to show their photo ID. And I think they do.
Yes.
But there's some fractions we're trying to have that go away. We would rather see that, I hope we would rather agree that we would rather see that in place so we know exactly who the observers are. And then put it on your inspector statement that you have an observer. This is an order to leave. This is for the observer also. If they should not be talking to the voters, they can ask some questions to the poll workers, but they cannot interfere with their position that they were doing, and that is up to the chief inspector to decide on what they can and cannot do. And again, the poll list certification, you just fill it out, and the number of signatures.
Yes, sir.
And here's one that is actually filled in.
Barb, what is
Yes.
what is a Badger book? Badger book.
Badger Book. So Badger Book, we have 4 municipalities in Shawano County that are using them. It is an electronic poll book. And Washington, Angelica, the city, and Westcott all have them right now. It works a lot. It's a lot more economical for the larger municipalities to have them. If you're a village of 300, it's going to cost you $4,000 probably to get the Badger books on there, and usually not going to make it through the budget process. But we can
It is
attest.
absolutely awesome.
It's awesome. It's for nighttime reconciliation of that poll book. You hit a button, it's done.
Oh.
And basically, it's a key. They come in. It's a kiosk. You do away with the paper poll book. It's a kiosk that's sitting there. You have only need 1 poll worker per person. So if you have 2 of these kiosks, you're working on 2 people at the same time, not 2 people with 1 voter. And they give you your name. They still have to go through the same process. They have to show you their photo ID. They have to announce their name and their address. And then we pull them up in the poll book. They sign that poll book electronically, and then they go on with the process. So, and when the poll book prints, it shows their name, their finger signature on that poll book. So, it's really, I like it. It's, maybe if the state ever came out with some grants for Badger books, I would highly recommend that you get them. But I know Angelica and we did too, and I think Westcott all got 3, so it cost us $6,000.
So is there any way to kind of pool some of the townships together to get a deal like that, for 10 or 15?
I'm not sure. It's a possibility. I know we did that with our voting machines, but it's something we could do if there was enough interest. I'd definitely check into it for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Election day paperwork, again, this is provisional ballots, the blue sheets of death. Shawano County, I don't know when the last time they actually had a provisional ballot. And in case you don't know, a provisional ballot means that a voter came into your polling place and they did not have the proper ID or paperwork or something to vote. So they said, well, I still want to vote, and I will go home and get whatever I need and bring it back to you by Friday. So then this paperwork needs to be filled out, the ballot goes in there. The next steps that this causes is that the municipality cannot do their Board of Canvass and close out or certify their election until they receive this back. And that voter has until Friday. So then the downhill effect that this does is that the municipality can't close their election. Therefore, the county, I cannot certify the election because we have our Board of Canvass on Thursday. So if this person, I think it's either way, the municipality still has to reconvene on Friday to certify your election. Well, yeah, they would certify the election. And then I would have to postpone my Board of Canvass until either Monday or Tuesday of the next week. It is 100% that voter's right to do this. But I would work with that voter as a clerk to have them go home and get the proper paperwork that they needed to vote that day because of what it does in the long-term effect of the election. We will have the state calling us. Why haven't you, why is this municipality not closed out their election? Why have you not closed out your election? Your Thursday, Board of Review, or not Board of Review, Board of Canvass. And then, well, we're waiting on provisional ballot. We do report that there are provisional ballots out there to the state, so they know, but it's a provisional ballot. You can do that. So election day paperwork, again, this is the used certificate envelope for absentee ballots. And if we have an envelope like this. So if your absentee ballot envelopes won't fit in here, you're gonna need to bag them up, box them up, do something else. And then you just make copies of this and put one on each one of those boxes or bags or whatever and mark it 1 of 2, 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, just so you have that continuity and that chain of custody for your absentee ballot envelopes. Because if we do a recount, or somebody wants to do open records request, that is usually the first thing that they're going to want to look at is those absentee ballot envelopes. We're going to go through some of the envelopes. You guys have all seen these. I shouldn't set that down. Rejected absentee ballots for some reason, whatever reason. This will go into the ballot will come into this absentee ballot, rejected absentee ballot envelope. We need to see this filled in. We need to see the township. We need to see the 3 election inspectors that have signed and dated this. We see these come back with nothing on them. We actually have to open them up to find out what township they're from. So make sure you fill the fronts of these in at the end of the night if you're using them. The next one is a guide to remaking ballots over here, which is in your paperwork. But then the original ballot that was remade will go into the original ballot envelope. And it does give you the guidelines on these, because some of them, there's spoiled ballot envelope, there's original ballot envelope, there's absentee ballots, and then the envelope ballot or envelope. So there's quite a few envelopes. And it does, if you kind of just read through this, it'll tell you, go, oh, okay, this is the one that needs to go in here, and so on. And there is one that needs to go in the ballot bag. That was the one I just had. The original ballot, this goes in the ballot bag. The other 3 do not. They need to be separate. So, and it does say that on there. So election day paperwork. Oh, I'm reading that. Spoiled ballots envelope, we just talked about that. For the ballots that the voter spoiled, they get up to 3 chances to remake their ballot, and then they would go here. Of course, you'd write on the inspector statement that you had to do a remake. Security seal envelope log. You'll have one of these you should have one of these for each of your machines. And you write down your serial numbers on here. I start at end of pre-lat, we'll lock our machine and then take them off. Well, don't really even have to take them off anymore for public. But if we were, I start at pre-lat, public test, and then the day of. And if you have to change out your printer, cartridge, or whatever, make sure you're putting those seals in here and marking them on the sheet. At the end of the night, or after the election, these do not come back to the county. They stay with the clerk's election materials, and you keep that for the retention period. And this is the ballot container certificate. It's in the red bag. We don't see any problems with this coming back. Maybe once in a while somebody will miss it and not fill it in, but very rarely we have that problem. This is just a WISP vote compiling election day paperwork, a post-election checklist that it's in there, or you can get it out of the election day manual, your clerk can. Just some of the things that to prepare for. I think Wisconsin Election Commission might just send that out to all the clerks too, if they still do. This is our sheet that we send out before the election with all your materials of what you need to bring back to what the clerk needs to bring back to the county, and they bring all that stuff back in the next day. All right. We have a set of scenarios. Your chief inspector for your polling place passes away the night before the election. What are you going to do? So your clerk can appoint a chief inspector for the day without having that 3-hour training. Best practice is to have a second chief inspector, of course. Municipal clerk is hospitalized on election morning. It's because of all the stress she had to do prior to the election. So a couple months ago, we had requested from all the municipalities their emergency plan. We got some back. But in that emergency plan, the clerk should have listed who their deputy clerk or who somebody else would be contacted, maybe the chairman, in case that were to happen. Poll workers should be equipped to run the polling place on their own. Technically, your chief inspector is running that election on election day. Your clerk is there to help, but the chief inspector is the main person that day, and they know what they're doing, so. Otherwise, call us here at the county, we'll come out and help you. Seal numbers on election morning do not match what the clerk documented on the inspection statement. Inspector statement or on this. And I went, ooh, on this one. Poll workers should document and the clerk's office should investigate. Depending on which seal does not match, it may be advisable to retest the election equipment prior to you opening the polls. So you want to make sure if there is a difference, talk to the clerk, find out why, what happened between the public test and the election day. Probably good reason why, hopefully. Wisconsin, a voter presents a Wisconsin driver's license as proof of address for registration. The license expired prior to the election. So this is, they want to register. They have a Wisconsin driver's license. The license expired prior to the election, so it's expired. Can they register?
There's a
Not
time
proof of
period for that,
residency.
isn't there?
No.
Proof of residence documents that contain an expiration date cannot be expired. This is for registration per state law. The voter will need to use a different document to prove their address or registration. So that is for registration. So the next one is asking, voter presents a Wisconsin driver's license for voter ID. So they've already registered and now they're coming to vote. The license expired on December 9th, 2022. Can they use that driver's license for their photo ID to vote?
Yes.
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 They can. It has to be, as long as it expired after the last November election in, whatever time frame that is, so then, yes, that would be. Minnesota driver's license as a voter ID. Can they do that? No. No. Only Wisconsin ID is acceptable. Okay, your polling place needs to evacuate because of a fire or a bomb threat, a fire alarm or a bomb threat. What do you do? So they are recommending that the poll worker should take election materials with them and should document the time evacuation started and ended on the inspector's statement. They should also document whether someone was unable to vote. I guess it would be the circumstances at the time. A duty judge may extend voting hours. You will need to contact the county clerk's office to do that. Judge Kissel is our duty judge, and so I'd have to get a hold of him, and he would come into the office, and he would do whatever, and we would call the state and let them know that that particular municipality's office hours or polling hours have been extended for whatever reason it might be. A voter registering to vote for the first time states they are a green card holder, but not a citizen. Voter states that their dependent child is a citizen and the voter would like to vote on school district referendum since it impacts their child. The voter was told that she could vote in local elections. I don't know who told her that.
She was lied to.
She was lied to. The voter should not be allowed to register a vote at all, simply because you need to be a U.S. citizen at the time they are registering to vote, and they're recommending you go through a naturalization process. So no, she can't vote. And here's an observer wants to challenge a voter because they are not speaking English. Language spoken is not a legitimate reason to challenge a vote or a voter. The chief will give the observer a warning that frivolous challenges will not be tolerated, and that observer gets one warning, and then the chief inspector can ask them to leave.
If you don't leave,
Call the sheriff's department. If you don't leave, call the sheriff's department. An absentee voter marked their ballot by circling the names on their preferred candidates. I mentioned this before. absentee ballot or whatever, the voter will need to remake it, or if it's absentee, determine the intent and remake that ballot at that time. Here's one we will face in August. An absentee voter in the August, or April, we'll have April, primary does not select a party at the top of the ballot. They cast most of their votes in one political party, but cross over to another political party for one office. We talked a little bit about this before too. Entire ballot out the window. So those county races, those municipal, the school district, all went out the window because they didn't properly do the partisan primary. Voter enters the polling place with a political pin on their jacket. Can they do that?
No,
Ask them to remove it.
You'd be
Yes,
surprised.
they can.
They can wear that. If they walk into your polling place, they vote and they leave, that is fine. The recommendation is confronting the voter may draw more attention to the pin than allowing the voter to cast their ballot and leave. But if that voter is pointing at that pin or that sticker or whatever materials they have, it's called electioneering. They cannot do that.
Caps too.
But they can wear a cap. But they can't,
Wave it.
yeah. So basically, if they walk in and leave, that's okay. One of the local television stations wants to capture footage in your polling place. Can they do this?
Yes.
Sure.
It is up to the chief inspector to decide whether or not they want to leave the press to come into their polling place or not. So they don't have to. If the chief inspector feels that it's going to be disruptive at any point in time, depending on, it's all depending on what's going on in your polling place. If there's, if you've got something on your ballot that is very controversial, you could have, people in there that you're trying to get rid of and you can't get rid of them, and the sheriff's department has been called, and now all of a sudden media shows up. Do you want them in there? No. Chief inspector, it's up to them. And of course, the media should obtain permission from anybody that's in the area at the time to protect your confidential voters if you have any. A voter takes a selfie in the polling place. Is that permissible?
Why would they do that?
Social media. I voted. Took a picture. Freedom of speech. As long as the chief inspector, again, doesn't find it a disruptive process. So a lot of this crowd control falls onto the chief inspector. One of your polling places runs out of ballot during rush hour. Like, that never happened. So what they say is that, count back 50, put a Post-it note in there, contact your clerk to get more. Some of you don't even have 50 paper ballots, or 50, it's so, at some point, look at what you got and maybe put a sticky in there and then call your clerk, and what'll happen is that they'll contact me and we will print off more ballots. If they were tabulator, they will now be hand count. We'll give you a hand count tally sheet and you'll have to go from there. But I plan on ordering, did I tell you this already, or is that the last? Okay, good. So I can go around today, so. We hopefully will have plenty. Hopefully. So this is talking about there's a discrepancy. Poll workers compare the number of voters to the number of ballots before running the results, and there's a discrepancy. You have one too many ballots for the number of voters, or vice versa. And so they're having you check, double check, triple check that all the ballots have been counted. Put it on your inspector statement. Best practice, reconcile your numbers every hour. And I think a lot of us do that already. If not every hour, every couple hours. For sure, if you have split shifts, make sure those numbers balance before that morning shift goes home. Otherwise, you might be calling them back in later if something's amiss. There are more voters than ballots.
That's a problem.
So it's the same process. Check for absentee ballots that still need to be remade. Check the emergency bin. So in these new machines, these tabulators, the emergency bin, or even the, they're talking about the emergency bin, I think that's the auxiliary bin that you would put it in if there was an issue with the machine, and you get those out and put them through. But in these machines, if you have a write-in, it's supposed to separate it out from the rest of them. And you almost gotta crawl into that machine in order to get that flap out of there to make sure that you have all of your ballots out. So if you're missing a ballot versus your voter number, it could quite possibly be still in that machine. And then check, make sure all your absentee envelopes are empty. In the count, they have a couple other things to do. Count the voters recorded in the poll book, which I'm sure we probably all have done that. The one last thing I would recommend is that I would not spend countless hours going back through your poll book and trying to count those. I'd get a computer out, open up Excel, and have somebody read the numbers, go into your poll book, start on page 1, and read those numbers off all the way through the book. That way you can sort it, you can find out if you have duplicate number, or you can find out if you missed one, and that is going to show you right away why you're off. Because you missed a number. You gave, 221 to 2 people, and you're 1 number short. That's why.
Another advantage of Badger Book.
Yes, another advantage of Badger Book. So that works both ways. There are more ballots cast than voters.
Sound like a bird.
Going back to the other one with more voters than ballots, another scenario could be that you had a voter come in, they went through the line, they got their ballot, they got mad, and they decided they weren't going to vote. And they took their ballot and they left. You can't run after them. So that's a scenario where you're going to be one off. You put that on your inspector statement. It's going to go on that incident report, inspector statement in that middle that if that happens, don't put that you had the same amount of ballots as voters, because that's really going to throw things off. It's okay to have those differences on those inspector statements if they're documented why. So if you have more ballots cast than voters or vice versa, and the discrepancy cannot be resolved, last resort, you would do a drawdown. They have you counting backwards on some of the ballots type of thing. They're not bad, but hopefully you don't get to this point. And if you do and you absolutely cannot figure it out, you need to let us know too. So then the next day we can work with you, our office and your office can work together to find out what happened. Sometimes it's the machine. So poll books need to be reconciled. 2 workers on a poll book, or none. And then discrepancies need to be fixed. That's what I just mentioned. And if they can't be, let us know. Badger Books would solve this problem. Results have been run and the ballots need to be secure. Make sure you get all those ballots in those red bags and you zip tie them tight. You sign the container slip. And then if you have poll workers that are affiliated with a party one way or the other, they request that you put that on the container certificate. What does it take to be a poll worker? A U.S. citizen, 18 years old, and exception for high school student poll workers, which if you run into an issue where you don't have enough poll workers, you can always tap into your local high school. On the Wisconsin Election Commission website, the training for high school poll workers is out there. And I'm not sure if there's any limits on what they can do at the polling place, but they can definitely help out. Whether, in November they could be a greeter, they could say, yeah, you're registered, you need, crowd control. So training, we have 2 hours up here. We had a discussion in Wittenberg whether it was 2 or 3, and then we had a clerk come up with her phone and went out to WEC, and it's been changed. It says some training. So I would suggest at least 2. You can use your public test, you can use your pre-lat, because your clerk should be talking to you about what's going to happen at this election, what type of election it is, if there's registered voters. So you're going to do, if you attend these pre-lats and the public test, you'll be talking about elections, you're going to find out what's going on. So they consider that training for the election. If your spouse, if there's a candidate on the ballot, their spouse, or I'd go out to like immediate family, children probably should not be working the polls that day. Somebody asked me, what about an ex? And I said, well, it depends on they've been divorced for 30 years, you know, if there's still issues between the two of them, you're gonna have to kind of figure that out. Maybe, maybe not. If, you know, if the candidate is okay with it, then it might be okay, but a spouse definitely not should be working the elections. And then, children, I just stay totally away with that, because if you have, a race that's contentious, and one of the candidate's children is working, you don't want to put into that position. So it'd just be best if you found somebody else. You probably, I shouldn't say most, I believe all of the townships in Shawano County compensate their compensate their workers. You do not need to live in your municipality to work at any given municipality in the county. And then, like jury duty, your employer should grant you time off with a 7-day notice or more. It's just like, did I say jury? Oh, yeah, like jury duty. So this is your civic responsibility. If you want to do it, they can't say no if you give them ample time. Let's see. And then in December, all the municipalities should have on their December board agendas the list of voter inspector, or poll inspectors and chief inspectors, just so that they're on record of who they're going to be. If something happens during the middle of the year and you get a new one, they don't really say much about that. I say start recruiting your poll workers now for August and November. And so then this is just additional training. This one is out at the Learning Center on the Wisconsin Election Commission site. I think there's a link. Very good, nice trainings out here. Maybe 5-minute sessions or 10. No more than 15, I don't think. But you'll have to contact your clerk because they will need to get you access to this. It's a data entry access, and basically name, address, and email. We send it into the state. They send you a username and password back, and you can get in here. So it's not that hard. And then additional training on the WEC website. They have like webinars. Today there was a webinar from 10 to 11 on absentee ballots. And then in-person training schedule. There's nothing around here. And then, just election officials training tables. It's what you can use and can't use for trainings. And then training topics: poll worker, voting equipment, opening the polls, greeters, registration, management, central count. Nobody in Shawano County has central count, thank goodness. And then special procedures. So it's getting better. It's kind of hard. They have like 2 websites, WisVote and then WEC. And then they tried tying together with the Learning Center, but it's still a little bit hard to navigate, but it's getting better. And that's what I have for the second hour. Any questions? Yes?
This is actually about absentee ballots. Our township has almost a majority paper ballots. And so when the absentee ballots are checked, and the clerk will check and then we verify that all the information is correct.
Mm-hmm.
And we assign a number.
Yeah, we have to touch too.
Can we then put those paper ballots in the ballot box? We announce it.
You can, because, so the question was, this particular municipality has hand count paper ballots. And they're getting their absentee ballots in and they're processing them. Then what do they do with them? Yes, I would do the same process, put that ballot into the container that you have, because you're not actually counting the votes on that ballot until 8 o'clock when you open it up and get them all out and process them, or count them then at that time, so, yeah.